I think that's the hope that's going into this, right? Is whether or not it ends up being a bilateral or trilateral with President Zelensky included, is part of it's obviously going to be Ukraine focused in where that is, but I know a lot of it's going to be focused around sanctions. Part of it's probably going to be to the discussion of what happened at the end of last week when President Trump parked a couple of nuclear powered submarines off the coast of Russia based off of things former President Medvedev said, and trying to bring some of these things to light, right? So I do find it interesting in the timing that this came up right after last Friday when President Trump decided to let everybody know he was doing that.
Wayne, what has the last several years meant for the defense contractors out there? Has their business seen a material pickup due to the war in Ukraine?
Yeah, from a capacity perspective, you see a lot of that. Something I'll just use an example of Lockheed's PAC-3 interceptors, which is part of the Patriot air defense missile system that Ukraine, as well as a lot of our NATO partners in the U.S., obviously use. From a production perspective, Lockheed's really looking at trying to take it from 550 of those interceptors per year to 650 by 2027. So you're seeing a lot of demand. You're seeing a lot of production capability for munitions, propellants. You obviously from the reconciliation bill, right? You had the 150 billion that's coming in, 29 billion for shipbuilding is a great example, right? Huntington Ingalls and General Dynamics Electric Boat got a lot of that, but there are 16,000 suppliers that are part of that shipbuilding maritime industrial base that supports that. If you look across Europe as they try to get up on some of this, right? You've seen the pledge to reach 5%. Really, it's 3.5% of hard defense spending and 1.5% of almost like support contracts that are tied to defense to reach that. Some countries like Germany will be easier to reach that, and others won't. Rheinmetall, Leonardo, Thales is some of the companies that are large. The European side of the house, and then for obviously the U.S., you've got your big primes, your Raytheons, your Northrops, your Lockheeds as some of the big contributors for that, and then Golden Dome's obviously a huge player in that. So you'll start to see more of the SpaceX side of the house as well as some of the other primes that play in the satellite side as well.
Now, Wayne, you mentioned defense stocks. What about the impact on oil?
Oil, I don't have a huge visibility on that. I don't want to speak out of turn for that. So I'd leave that one to Scott Levine.
So, Wayne, just on the defense side, over the next 2 to 3 to 4 years, will total global defense spending, is it expected to rise as these European countries step up their defense spending? I mean, is the U.S., I don't see the U.S. cutting back as the other guys pick up their spending. So is global going to pick up materially?
No, I believe it will. And if you think about it, there's something out there that's called the security dilemma. And so as one person has this level of capability, then guess what? I need to have this level of capability be just a little bit better. China's not slowing down their production, right? So they outproduce on the naval side of the house, at least China outproduces and manufactures ships at a rate of 6-to-1 to us. They're not slowing down. You are looking for different partners across the board, even on the Russian side of the house, where like Vietnam, who normally gets Russian equipment, is looking for other partners. So you are seeing some additional players like the U.S. looking for areas like that. AUKUS, the Australia, UK, U.S. Deal for not only the submarine side on AUKUS Pillar 1, but there's also something called Pillar 2, which is a lot of emerging technologies for hypersonic technologies and directed energy. Think lasers and high-powered microwaves. All of these things are all part of that environment, right? They're all part of this ecosystem, and that spending is going to continue to grow. Now, the key ends up being in a lot of European companies and elsewhere is how long can this be maintained? Right now, everybody seems to be on board until you have to start cutting some social spending to be able to get to the numbers that are necessary. Germany has some room to go. So does Poland. They actually have money to use and to buy, but you have others like Italy that are overspent at the time, right? So them or Spain, they promised 12 billion in increased spending, but right now we're not seeing how they're going to be able to do that.